Welcome back. You are watching Morning Express. Today we're taking a look at what's making headlines both locally and internationally, and also focusing on some of the local politics that is at play right now. Now, some of the stories that we have taken a look at is the call to the mountain to wait for a signal from the president. We've also taken a look at the situation with the IBC. Voter apathy is plaguing the voter registration exercise, and at the same time, IBC awards a Greek company tender to print ballot papers. There's so much in the papers, you might have to grab yourself a copy of the Standard to learn more. But there's also the issue of devolution, and I wanted to get the comment of Ken Amondi, who is a lawyer. What do you make of the situation, the upcoming devolution conference, and the fact that the governors are saying they will not be signing off on the a proposal not to increase the revenue allocation? Those leaders, they are demanding an additional 381.45 billion shillings equitable share in the next financial year, so that counties can get a total of 751 billion shillings per year. The question is, what have they been doing with the funds so far? We had the case of Turkana being shown light on, because this is one of the areas that are hardest is right now. They're going through a drought, and of course there are many issues that plague the county's health is not ideal right now. So the question is, do they actually need to get that financial boost, even though some may say they're not doing well with the funds they have already been given, or are the funds too little to impact enough change? Mr. Amondi, over to you.
The question of additional equitable revenue share, my take to the governors would be that, in as much as that may be within the framework of the law, on this you are not on the side of Kenyans, and precisely for the issues that have already been raised by my other panelists, in the sense that you must account for that which you have already received. I mean, in a scenario where you go to the counties, and like has been said, look at the hospitals. I don't know that there we have certain challenges in terms of disbursements of funds, but where the public health system has completely crashed, where the much that you can get from, the referral hospitals in the counties is Panadol, then you really need to convince Kenyans that you are entitled to getting much more. And then, like other panelists have already said, it really brings in a question in terms of the role that is played by the agencies that were ordinarily expected to oversight the county governments. I mean, we have here the county assemblies, we have the Senate, and of course the DPP and the rest. And it is interesting because you go to the counties, and the system that we have is such that it would seem that, for the county assemblies, your role is so much to, as it were, hero worship the governors, so that in the end of the day, county assemblies now do not carry out their oversight role. In fact, it is such that if you find a county assembly that is keen on carrying out its oversight role, then it's taken like, they are anti-establishment. And to this extent, I think even some of our major political parties would really need to play a hand. And I have in mind, for example, the ODM political party, and as it stands now, maybe Jubilee, such that they are under a duty to ensure that counties under which they have control, they must rein in and bring order, such that if you are part and parcel of the county assembly, then your core role is to oversight the governor and not to sing the tune of the governor, because as it stands now, in most of the counties, there is no oversight at all that is taking place. Of course, the same also applies to the Senate, where you will find that in most instances, either the senators are in bed with their governors, and of course, you know the consequences of that in counties that have such sort of scenarios. But where the senators seem to be keen in terms of carrying out oversight, then that is taken as though the senator is someone who is, challenging the establishment. And interestingly, you'll find that percolating, even cascading down to the ground, to the people who are expected to be keen on ensuring that, look, if we voted you in as a senator, then your role is to oversight and to ensure that the governor, is correctly properly using and accounting for the money that has been given, that is given to the county government. So that I think there's a sense in which, as a society, I mean, even if you leave aside even the organs that were tasked with the responsibility of oversighting devolution, our political parties, and even us as Kenyans, we really need to know that the structure of government as stands now, both national and county government, is such that we have certain bodies, and more so the legislative part of it, county assemblies and senate, whose tasks is fundamentally to oversight the executive in the counties, not to go in bed with the executive, because that is what is happening. That is what I know is killing devolution, because the moment, for example, members of the county assemblies start hero-worshipping the governor, then what follows? It means that they are the ones who will be doing business with the county government, such that then now, they will close their eyes to the ills that are taking place there. And that is what has caused the massive rip-off that we are seeing in our counties, such that, as a matter of fact, if you go to the ground and you ask the people, are you confident that your county government can account for the money that was sent for the national government to the county? I want to tell you, in close to 90% of cases in Kenya, the people will tell you that is not the position. So for the governors on this, I know it is within the framework of the law, but from the perspective of accountability, most of us Kenyans, most of the people of Kenya will not be with you in this, because you cannot properly account for the little that you have been given.
Right. Now, Mr. Njiru, they're saying that in the upcoming conference, they will release a book called the Devolution Book, which will document all the gains, challenges, and lessons learned. Maybe to play devil's advocate, perhaps these are teething problems. They're still figuring it out. Could you find, in your view, anything to say that the county governments in this country have done a good job? They've got it right. It could be in health, resources, local resources, human resources.
Yes, in the counties where there is transparency and accountability, work has been done. Even in those counties where there is theft of public resources, slight work has been done. But what we are saying is, even in those counties where there is theft, what has been done could have been done much more better and much progressive and magnificent in terms of quantity and quality, had it not been for the theft that is prevailing. For example, I don't want to mention counties, although what I'm saying it in fair comments. We have seen serious counties, and I can even mention Kirinyaga County. For example, the 10 million that we are speaking about, because it pains me that evidence was brought and somebody was acquitted because of political machinations. How much medicine would that have bought? How much maram would that money have done? So we are saying that yes, slight work has been done. We can see some fruits from the devolution, but this is not what we expected when we enacted Article 10 of the Constitution, which gives the theme of the Constitution. Article 10 speaks about accountability and transparency and the observation of the rule of law. Why? Because we had a history of knowing how plundering and stealing of national resources, government resources have been happening. So we wanted to put a stopgap measure. We wanted to cushion ourselves that this shall be the overriding objective for any leader who comes into power. For any leader who wants to have exponential growth and impact on his people, there is no leader who will fail to enhance accountability. Maybe what the Council of Governors need to do, and my friend Governor Wambora, whom I defended in 2014 when he had been accused successfully and impeached, he needs also to ensure that they also tell us how to minimize theft in county governments, how to minimize wastage and spillage of our resources in county government. And also they also need to tell us how to include the people more aggressively, because the question of people's inclusivity has not been qualitative. It may have been quantitative, but not qualitative. Because qualitative means that whatever is coming up from the suggestions of the people will not just be done for purposes of political expediency, but for purposes of impacting on the life of the people. For example, when Governor Nanok goes to, and I can quote this without fear or contradiction, or even without blinking my eyes, when he goes for public participation in Turkana, has he ever not heard that food is one of the fundamental issues that these guys need? Is it true that people from Turkana have not indicated to Governor Nanok's government that they need water? Is it true that Governor Nanok does not know his people are feeding on wild fruits? Is it true really that he has spent money in the right way to make sure that he feeds people? For example, tomorrow we are about to celebrate the Mashujaa Day. When our founding fathers crafted the message for this country, the one that was supposed to be the launching pad for this country, they said we must fight with hunger, we must fight with diseases, poverty, and literacy. Now, tomorrow we are about to celebrate Mashujaa Day. This guy from Turkana, this guy from Wajir whose camels are dying, this guy from Mandera whose camels are dying, and Garissa, will they be up in arms? Will they be celebrating Mashujaa Day? How will you celebrate Mashujaa Day when you are mourning your dead camel? How will you celebrate Mashujaa Day when you are not able to feed your children? I mean, Article 28 of the Constitution has provided that everybody has to have dignity, has a right to dignity, and to have that dignity respected and protected. How will the people of Turkana, Wajir, and elsewhere where they are dying of famine have that dignity respected? We have completely diminished their dignity. We have downtrodden their dignity, because when a man begs for food to feed his family, oh man, what happens to his manhood? We have injured them. We have completely dismantled our society. And all this is happening because of inept leadership that is not responsive to the people's plight, leadership that is only geared towards enriching themselves and forgetting about the masses. And that is why the conversation in this country, anybody who speaks of becoming a president and does not tell you in his mantra on how to deal with his corruption, but he otherwise encourages corrupt leaders to come to his fold. And he says, come, all you, the people who are found to be sinners, come to me and you shall find some comfort. That is a person we should put into question as to whether or not he is able to save the plight of our people. Because the plight of our people, the back rests in fighting corruption. Any person who has not indicated clearly and vividly, unequivocally, that he is able to fight corruption, that person is not worth the leadership of this country. Any person who invites people who are corrupt in his fold, that is where they find solace, that is where they find comfort, that is the place they call home, that person should be abhorred like leprosy. We should run away from that person, because he will make this country to sink deeper and deeper from where we are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njiru. for your comments on that. And Mheshimiwa Nabulindo, he has spoken about a lot, and corruption seems to be a recurring situation when it comes to national politics, government delivery, local politics, devolution. Corruption is a thorn in the Kenyan flesh. Now, I'd like to know, in your view, one of the promises of devolution at the onset was the fact that there was going to be a creation of jobs, you know, and, you know, making good use of the human resource at the grassroots level. That did not mean more employees at the county premises. It meant creating opportunities and making use of that. How do you think they have done that? Because one of the loopholes when it comes to cash is the recurrent expenditures, salaries. But an excuse would be like that we have given jobs to our people. So how should that be handled?
Trix, I can understand the pressure that the governors have when it comes to employing. And when it comes to employing, they are pushed very hard by their cronies, and especially the first-time governors. They are under pressure to employ so many people who supported them to become governors during their campaigns. And obviously, the number goes beyond what the Human Resource Department expected to handle. And that automatically pushes the wage bill very high beyond what the county government can handle. And that's not the problem of counties only. Even at the national level, we have a problem that we have more employees than our budget can handle. And we have seen a bigger percentage of our money going to recurrent expenditure, which is not something good. That's not good for the country, because we are not going to move forward. We are going to remain stagnant, paying salaries day in, day out. No money for development. And that situation has to change if we have to realize any development. If, for example, Kakamega County is given 10 billion per financial year, and out of that 10 billion, 65% goes to recurrent expenditure, then that means hospitals will not be developed, the schools, the lower schools will not be developed, roads will not be developed, and so many other infrastructure that's connected to the county government. Therefore, it's a worrying situation to Kenya, and we need to relook on how we reward cronies. Actually, the only avenue that the governors have in showing that they appreciate how you campaign for them is by rewarding their cronies, by employing many people or their people. And they assume by doing that, they are giving their supporters this sense of entitlement that we helped you, and so you have given back. You have given back. That is the biggest problem we have. I'll be the devil's advocate for the governors. As a politician, I can understand the pressure on them on employing so many people.
But does that employment have to be direct? Because they create platforms, create groups, some creativity, and that would actually even create more employment for other people other than the one.
I understand what you are saying, but the situation you are talking about is an ideal situation whereby the governor will lay down programs that will give rise to job opportunities. But these are long-term plans. These guys, the moment he is sworn in, tomorrow everybody is at his neck, the office is full, we did this for you, we need to, you to employ this number of people from my ward or from my clan or from my sub-county. And that situation, we hope in future it will change, that many youth and many people will understand that it does not mean being employed at the county is the only form of employment that we can receive from our leaders. Most youth are not patient enough to wait for the programs to be rolled out. For example, the agricultural income generating programs, like fish farming. Most youth, that a process that can take a whole year or 2 years before the fruits can start being seen. And in Kenya, we have this false perception that for you to make it in life, you must be employed. By a government or an organization. You must be salaried. So there is that pressure on even our own families that I have taken my child to school, so this child must be employed. So any form of income generating is not actually considered as employment.
It's something on the side.
It's just something on the side. It's not considered as something that can create income to develop the families or to create more employment opportunities. So we need to change that mindset for the young people and know that you can make it in life, you can create wealth by doing other things, self-employment, engaging in income generating activities at the grassroots, as opposed to only being focused to being employed by the county government or the national government or any organization that actually offers a pay slip.
Right, that does make a lot of sense. Now let's shift gears from devolution and take a look at some more political news that is making headlines. Now we are told on page 7 of the Standard, Ruto is warning troublemakers. Troublemakers will be disqualified is what they're being told. Politicians defecting from other parties have been told to work hard, and the DP is promising a free and fair nomination. Now this is a conundrum that we often see perhaps the Orange Democratic Movement facing. Now we're being told the aspirants who resort to violence risk being disqualified from running on the UDA party ticket. And of course, yesterday the Deputy President William Ruto warned that the party would not tolerate violent leaders. He also assured supporters that the party nominations would be free and fair. Now the Deputy President is facing a problem that many parties actually face quite often when it comes to nominations, because the stakes are usually high, particularly as we approach the general election. Ken Amondi, come in on this and tell us why these moments are usually very heated for political parties.
I think the comment by the Deputy President was expected, of course, given the fact that, and we have to admit that given the fact that the Deputy President started his campaign quite a while back, the party that he has gravitated around, that is the UDA, has gained traction. And of course, when that happens, then it means you have got so many people, rather potential candidates, who will be seeking the party ticket. And of course, when you have so many candidates, there is bound to be commotion, as it's normally the bad practice in our country. You'll expect violence and such like things. However, this is one major problem that major political parties would always face. I know ODM faced it heavily in the last election. The same to Jubilee. In fact, it's said that part of the reason that causes discontent, even when it comes to voting patterns in the actual election, is as a result of how nominations are normally conducted by our parties. In fact, one of the questions that has always been raised is that, are our political parties such that they can be in a position to run and manage proper nominations, as it were? Because the same is always questionable. And I think this is something which has got to be looked at from the perspective of even what happens in other jurisdictions, so that we have to ask ourselves hard questions like, do political party nominations necessarily have to be by, direct election method, Should political parties not, should they simply not carry out what would amount to like some college nomination of their favorite candidates? Because as you know, political parties are ordinarily a club, and the expectation is that the persons that ought to be elected or selected, for that matter, should be they who believe in the, the creed and who have the faith in the doctrines in respect of that particular party. And that happens in established democracy. So that is it that the system that we have taken, the one of subjecting political party candidates to direct elections, is it expecting too much from our political parties? Because we've tried this year in, year out, and there are always cries. And I bet even in the next coming elections 2022, definitely the position will remain. Because my understanding is that if we have to carry out nominations through, through direct election, then the structures must be equivalent to, those that are used by the IEBC during the main general election. And of course, our parties, given the budget that they have, allocations from the political, pursuant to the Political Parties Act, will not be in a position to carry out what can be described as a credible, free, fair, and transparent election. So that would be my take, that some of these questions, like the issues raised by the Deputy President, I know that the parties, even UDA, would not be, in a position to handle an election that would meet the requisite standard, such that the losers would, say, look, we are comfortable, this is okay, and we are going to back. In fact, it will be such that it is so easy to infiltrate and, as it were, have leaders imposed like happened in the last election. So that would be my take.
For sure. Mr. Njiro, what do you make of this? This situation that the Deputy President is addressing is not new to political parties. Having him here saying this is not a, he said nobody would get a direct ticket. This is not a party of stones, cows and goats, but people who listen. We want reasonable leaders and not hooligans. Of course, calling his house to order, and anyone who was thinking of acting abrasively would have to think twice about how he's going to go about this nomination period. What do you make of this situation, and perhaps do you think they would steer clear of any shambolic nomination process?
If I were William Ruto, and I thank God that I am not, I would first of all begin by listening to myself and doing a bit of self-introspection before I make such kind of pronouncements. He went to Muranga and said that UDA has actually favored Senator Kangata, and that Senator Kangata is now the appointee or the governor aspirant for Muranga. He went to Kwale. Again, he endorsed a lady called Achani. And then everybody in UDA who is propagating the ideology is expecting to get a free ticket. And that is what he did to Jubilee, by the way, if you don't remember. He is actually the reason why Jubilee is in shambles today, because he's actually the person who destroyed Jubilee. Those persons who were qualified for nominations, in the first nominations, the DP made sure that they have actually lost the nominations. That is why we lost people like Akina Governor Kabogo. That's why we lost people like Akina Mheshimiwa Kabando, and so many other critical. That's why we lost people like former MP for Njoro, Jeremiah, because he was destined to make sure that he gets a clique of people who can comfortably work with him, and those guys who could join his praise and worship team. So to me, he should give us a break when he tells us about issues of nominations. He has not demonstrated it in the past. He was in KANU, he never demonstrated it. He was in ODM, he never demonstrated it. He was in URP, he never demonstrated it. He was in Jubilee, he destroyed Jubilee. So unless he has had a new dawn, which I highly doubt, because old dogs run no new tricks, I would highly doubt his commitment to this whole process. And to me, this is just a gimmick of trying to make sure that people stay together in Jubilee, in UDA. But I want to tell them that think that they shall get free and fair nomination in UDA, or unto you, you need to start smelling the coffee. Let me ask you, that guy who want to contest against Mheshimiwa Gachagua in Nyeri, do you think you'll get fair and free nominations? That person who want to contest against Senator Susan Kehika in Nakuru, that person who want to contest against Dende Nyoro, that person who want to contest against Kimani Ichung'wah, guys, unless you're blind, I don't see whether you see the light of the day. But more to that, we need the party of William to much tell us on how they are going to ensure that the party observes the highest degree of integrity. The highest degree of integrity in the sense that we shall not get vagabonds, crooks, public resources thieves getting nominated in this process. As we are not just looking at a process of whether the process was free and fair, we're also looking at the end results. This free and fair process of nomination, what character has it yielded? That is much of our concern than a temporary situation of a mere nomination. Reason being, nominations of candidates will come and go, but the candidate who will be nominated will be with us for the next 5 years. So for us, we are more concerned with the end result of that particular process of nomination, and not just William's party alone. We are concerned about this in Jubilee. We are concerned about this in ODM. We are concerned about the quality of nomination in KANU, and any other political party that is playing out in politics. Chama cha Kazi, TSP, NAK Kenya. We are looking at getting the cream and the cream de la cream, that we get the quality. Not just, we do not want the guarantee of free and fair nominations. We want to see what quality of leaders has that process of free and fair nomination yielded. Because if we have garbage in, we'll expect to have garbage out. So we do not want to have garbage in at this particular time of the nominations, so that we can have the kind of the parliament we have now currently, and the kind of the Senate we have. So William, up your game, give us your criteria of ensuring that you have people who can observe Chapter 6 and the leadership and the integrity codes of ethics.
And indeed, just to give it context, the DP's endorsement of Kwale Deputy Governor Fatuma Ashani and former Senator Mombasa Hassan Omar on Friday and Sunday, respectively, to run for governorship, there has yielded some tension. And of course, and the DP has come out to call his house to order. Mheshimiwa Nabulindo, when you see what's happening in UDA, I'm sure you can relate to the high stakes of nomination periods for any party, but at the end of the day, democracy must actually take place. It has to have a sense of fairness.
Yes, please. This is a political season. We are in a political season, and one of the processes mandated by the Constitution and the Political Parties Act is that potential contestants have to go through the primaries, so that the parties can present the best candidate to IBC and to the voters. And therefore, for the top parties, it is usually a tug of war who gets the ticket to run for that particular seat. And historically in Kenya, since the multi-party system came in, we have not internalized the party democracy in parties. And we have a situation whereby popular candidates have been shortchanged at the nomination level in favor of candidates who know the party leader, or who know the party officials, or who have this sense of entitlement that I created this party, I helped to bring it to where it is, and therefore I am better placed to get the nomination ticket as opposed to the newcomer who has just come the other month. But despite having that, we have to look at who is popular on the ground, who do people want, and that's where the conflict comes in. The loyalty to the party versus popularity to the ground. You might get a candidate who is very popular on the ground, but at the party level, the level of participation is questionable or a bit lower. And therefore, maybe the party officials might feel we reward loyalty, and yet as opposed to popularity. But when you go to the ground, you will find that the people are saying we want that particular candidate. And therefore, that has created a situation of a cutthroat competition in the parties at the nomination level. And when you go down to individual parties, like we have had ODM, we had Jubilee, they were very popular at their particular regions. And it is said that once you get the nomination certificate during the nominations, then you are as good as the member of parliament or the senator or the governor. So therefore, it creates that very strong competition, and incidentally, the parties do not have an elaborate system of actually being fair. We have to be truthful here. The parties do not have the mechanisms of being fair to the contestants. Some parties do not have money to hire IBC to come and conduct this election for them. So most of the time it is done by party officials who are most of the time compromised. They are so compromised, and we have had situations whereby candidates themselves, they organized for the voting process, they buy transparent buckets and actually vote and count themselves and announce themselves as the winners.
So this violence that the candidates are being warned about,
yes.
How does it now boil down to violence? Could you paint us a scenario where that now occurs?
The violence comes because of one party feeling unfairly treated, or assuming they will be unfairly treated. Okay. For example, if a candidate is very popular on the ground, but he is not in good terms with officials who give out the party ticket,
yes.
This candidate might feel, I won the nomination, but I was denied the certificate. So there is that chance of his supporters erupting into that violence and the tug of war over the certificate. Yeah. But that's not a situation that we want to encourage in this country. We want a country whereby the primaries are streamlined, fair, and transparent enough to give IBC good candidates.
It does set the pace even for the actual elections, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, if you are fair enough, then the smoothness will sail until the date of election.
Absolutely, because it is a culture and it has a ripple effect. Thank you so much. That is Peter Nabulindo, Member of Parliament for Matungu.